Every day we spend hours on our phones or tablets. And that's no wonder, because some apps are designed in the most amazing way. So that made me think, how can we bring that app-like design to Power BI and create even more insightful and better designed reports? Now, this is what I came up with. And in this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to recreate it. Welcome to How to Power BI. My name is Bas, and if this is the very first time for you visiting this channel, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all of my videos in which I share everything I know about Power BI. Now, let's have a look how we can build an app-like report. Now, first of all, what do I mean with an app-like report? There are so many different types of designs within apps as well. Now, to be a little bit more specific, the design trend that I'm looking at is called Neumorphism, something like this over here. And the idea is that you make objects look like their real-life counterparts. For example, like a button on a dashboard, to make it look as a real button. So inspired by this app-like design trend, I thought, of course, the most suitable dataset for showcasing all of this is fitness app statistics. So let's head over to Power BI, let's have a look at the data and data model and start building our report. So here's our data model, and you see it's a very simple data model with just one table that contains all of the fitness and health statistics like your heart rate, the daily steps, etc. Then we have also one table that contains all of the information about the app users, and then of course a date table. And that's it. All right, now if we go to the report view, and if we then have a closer look at the field list, you see all of the measures nicely organized in different folders for the heart rate, the steps, the calories, the exercise sessions, and all of the other measures that we will be needing for this report. Okay, so let's get started. Now for this report page, we're going to keep it very simple. We're going to have 4 main KPIs that we want to track. So for those, we're going to create KPI cards, and then 1 main health indicator for which we're going to have a line chart that shows the development over time. And that's it. All right, now let's start with the KPI cards first. So here in the visualization section, I'm going to take the card, and for this very first card, we're going to use a measure that calculates the average heart rate over the last 30 days. So let's add it to the card. And now let's just adjust the formatting a little bit. So I'm going to go here to format, color value, and let's put it a little bit lower, maybe let's say 22. And then we go to the category label where we can set the font size to, let's say, 10. Now let's then also go to the general tab, and here I would like to have for now a visual borderline around the KPI card, and then here under properties, there we can choose an exact height and an exact width. So let's put the height a little bit lower, so maybe let's go for 100, and then here the width, let's go for now for 200. Now you see that the category label is a little bit long, so let's rename that. So let's go back here and then just double click on the field. And here, this last part, over selected period, so over the last 30 days, that we don't need to show. This is it. All right, so that is the very first card. Now we just have to do it 3 more times for the other KPIs. So I'm gonna duplicate this 3 more times. And now I take the last one over here, and I'm just going to drag it all the way here to the right hand side. And of course you can use the red border lines. And then I take the other ones and put them more or less in the right place. All right. And you see, I'm going to take the first one, put it just a little bit more to the left, and then I select all of them. And then here under format, we can use the alignment functionalities to distribute them horizontally and then align them to the top. Okay, so now that it is done, I just have to update the measures that we're showing on the other 3 KPI cards so that it doesn't show the heart rate. So I'm going to take away the heart rate, go to the next one, and I'm going to take here the average daily steps. And then we do the same for the calories and the exercise sessions. And after you added them, then also here, just update the names. So just by selecting them, then double clicking here on the field and making your adjustments. Okay, so we have our 4 KPI cards. The next thing I want to add is a drop down from which I can choose the user for which I want to show the values. All right, so this we can do with a slicer. So let's go here to the visualization section and let's look for the slicer. Let's add it to the report. And on the slicer, we can put the username, which we find in the table dim user. And here we have the first names, or let's maybe go for the full names. All right. Okay, now this gives us a list with all of the users. And now I want to change this to drop down, which you can do by hovering over the top right corner. Then click here on this little drop down arrow and then choose drop down. And then we can just resize the slicer. And then here under format, we can adjust the font size a little bit. Let's put it to 10. And the slicer header we don't necessarily need. So let's turn that one off. And then over here we can make our selection. Let's choose the very first user. Okay. And you see at the moment we can select multiple users, which is actually something that I don't want. So let's go back to formatting, slicer settings, then here, turn single select on. Now that slicer we're going to put all the way at the top above the KPI cards. And as the last thing, I just make it a little bit smaller so that it doesn't take that much space. And there you go. The next thing that I want to add is the line chart that shows the health score over time for the selected person. Okay, so let's insert a new line chart and we're going to place it underneath the KPI cards. Now the health score, for that I also already created a measure. So we take the measure, health score, and put it on the y-axis. Now I want to create a breakdown over time. So I go here to my date table, and from here we can take the date hierarchy, put it on the axis, and then here use expand down to the next level to go to the quarter level or to the month level. Now also here we can clean it up a little bit. First of all, the x-axis, we can do much better than this. So categorical, that's the type of axis. Then concatenate labels, we turn off. And the title we don't really need, we can also turn off. Okay, and then we go the y-axis. Also there, the title, we can turn it off. And then we can go to markers and turn them on. All right, now the title itself, let's go here to general, title, and just say health score. And then as the last step, we can go here to effects and then add a visual border around it. Okay, so the main KPIs that I want to track are already on this report page, but there are a few other elements that I still would like to add. For example, here at the top, I would like to add some welcome text. So that we have hi or good morning or good afternoon, and then the person that's selected over here in the slicer. All right, now how to do that? Also here, I already created a measure. Let's have a quick look. Now you see the measure is nothing special. We just take the hour from the current time and then come up with a greeting. So good morning or good afternoon, and then the name of the selected user. Now this measure we can add to a card. So let's add another card. Let's place it there at the top and then add the measure to the card. Okay, now it's a little bit big, so I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. So callout value, and let's put this one to maybe 18 and then turn off the category label. Okay, now the problem is that it always shows right in the middle, and I don't want to have it in the middle. I want to have it on the left hand side, but you don't know how long the text is going to be because that always changes on the basis of what is selected here in the dropdown. Okay, so instead of a card visual, I'm actually going to change this to a multi-row card. Okay, now why? Because it's now on the left hand side aligned, which you cannot do with a normal card. And here under format, we can just update the colors. So here under cards, we can change the color to just black. And then here, the font size, let's put that a little bit higher. Now that accent bar on the left hand side, you can turn off if you like. Okay, and then you can just resize that multi-row card and place it so that it aligns with that drop-down list on the right hand side. Now the other thing that I would like to add is going to be on the left hand side, which is a picture of the user and an indicator for the overall health score of the user. Okay, now here I'm going to first insert a shape. Now this shape is going to be a rectangle and we're going to place it here on the left hand side. Now to show the overall health score, we could use another card. So I'm just going to copy one of the other ones and paste it and then place it on top of that rectangular shape. And after that, of course, and we can replace that measure, but now by the health score. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing that I would like to have is a picture of the user. Now, what do we need for that? Now, first of all, you need inside of your table, you need all of the images. Now, that can be either in base 64 format. Now, if you don't know what that means, just check out this video over here, or you can work with external links if you have them somewhere on the server. So, which is what I have here at the moment. All right, now what is also important is that you take that column, go to column tools, and then here for the data category, we have to set that to image URL. Okay, so with this, we can go back to the report. And now we have to find a visual that lets us show the picture. So now we have two main options to show the image for the selected user. Option 1, which is using custom visuals, which is probably the easiest. However, if you don't like to use custom visuals, I have another alternative for you in a second. But let me show you this one first. So let's go here to the visualization section, get more visuals. And here we can just simply search for image, use here the simple image custom visual, and then just add it here to your report. Now I place it here on the shape. Then I go here to the image URL drop zone. And then here from the user, I take the image URL, so the photo image column, and just drag it here onto the image URL. And that's it. All right. So that's how we can show the image of the selected user. So if I change the user to the next one, Ashton, then you see the picture of the next person. All right, so this is definitely the easiest way to do it. However, what if you don't want to use custom visuals? Well, in that case, you can also do it with just a simple table. Let me show you how. I'm going to transform this into a normal table, and you also have a picture of the user. Now, how can we now make it a little bit bigger and get rid of all of the other elements? Now, what we can do is go here to Format, and then here under General Effects, first of all, get rid of the background. All right. And then here under Visual, Style Presets, this one we can set to None. Now you see the background color is now gone. All right. Now, how can we get rid of the header? Now, we can go here to the photo image field and then just replace the name with a space. Okay, so nothing shows in the header. Now, the last thing that we need to get rid of is that borderline. So I go back to Formatting. And then here we can go to Grid, and then Border, and then here column header, and then turn off the bottom border. And that's basically it. Okay, now how can you make the image a little bit bigger? Now this you can do here all the way at the bottom, image height, put it all the way to the right. And this is as big as you can get it. So you see, I have to give it a little bit more space and then drag it more or less in the middle. And that's it. The downside is that this is the biggest, right? So I cannot make it bigger anymore. This is the maximum. So if you need a bigger image, then, well, this is not going to be a good option. But for our purposes, this is enough. And to give it the finishing touch, I would like to have a donut around it that shows us that health score. What, donut? Yeah, I know what you're thinking, but here it looks very pretty. So let's go for a donut around the picture. All right, so add the donut chart. Then on the donut, we want to have the health score. And to get the missing slice for the donut, we just have another measure here, which takes 1 minus the health score. All right, so let's add that one as well. Okay, now we have what we want, but it's not pretty yet. So let's get rid of some of the elements. For example, here in the general, turn the title off. We don't need it. And then here in the effects, we can turn the background off. Oh, now it looks very messy. So let's go quickly to the visual formatting. And then here under slices, we can go to colors. And then for the health score, we can choose a different color that is contrasting. So let's go here to more colors. And I already know the color that I want to use later, which is going to be this purple color. All right. And then for the remaining part, I just keep it gray. Okay, good. Now this donut I want to have around the picture without the legend. So let's turn the legend off. And then also the data labels we don't need. Okay, now we're getting closer. That is spacing. We can also adjust. So let's put this to 90 pixels. And now we can adjust the size and put it around that face. All right. Now also here, of course, under formatting general, you can be a little bit more exact and choose the exact height and exact width. Now, if it's a perfect circle, then this needs to be the same. And then for position, you can play around with this a little bit more exactly to get it exactly in the right place. Now at this point, we have a working report. Now, I'm not saying it's a good design. However, all of the main key visuals are there. And so here, if we switch the user to, let's say, Aspen Hunt, which is the next one, you see everything nicely updates and we have the key information that we want to see. How can we upgrade this and make it look app-like? Now, of course, within Power BI, you also have a lot of formatting options, but it's not enough to get that look that we are looking for. Now, we are going to use a different program. Now, this can be Photoshop, can be PowerPoint, which is the one that we are going to use because it's available for almost everybody. Now in PowerPoint, we have all of the tools that we need to build the placeholders for the visualizations and the background of our report. Now, the big benefit is also then we just have one image that we can use as a background instead of having all different kinds of objects that need to load separately, which would otherwise increase the loading page by way too much. All right, so let's head over to PowerPoint and build the background for this report page. Now here we are in PowerPoint with that background that we are going to create right now. Now you see we have 4 placeholders for the KPIs. Then we have one main chart, that line chart underneath it. And then on the left hand side, there we have a placeholder for that picture and the donut that goes around it. And well, that health scorecard just goes underneath it. Okay, now where to start? Now let's start with a new slide. And here we go to insert. And here we look for the shape that we want to have in the background. Okay, now I'm going to go here for a rectangle with rounded corners. At the beginning, you can just make it more or less the size that you want to have for the background. Then here, the rounded corners you can adjust by dragging the yellow button a little bit more to the left. Now I try to be a little bit more exact than that. So let's take the shape, go to shape format, then here put the height, let's say to 17.5. And let's drag it up a bit. And then here the width we can adjust and let's make it 30. And then we can put it exactly in the middle. Now, what about the color? Of course, we don't leave it blue. So let's take it and then go here to fill and change the fill color. Here under more colors. Now here under custom, we can choose how much red, green and blue we want to have or define the color with the hex code. Now I know exactly the color code of the gray that I need here. So 243, 244, and then 247. That's it. Click OK. And we don't need the borderline around it. So no line. Okay, now that's going to be the background, the main background of our report. Okay, now on top of that, we're going to have the cards. Now for the cards, we basically have the same shape. So we repeat the same thing, insert, shape, and then also here we go for the rounded corners. Now for the size, I'm going to choose a height of 3.5. And then for the width, I'm going to choose a width of 5. So now the interesting part, how can we make this simple rectangle look like something that comes from our report? Now for this, first of all, we're going to turn line off. And then here for fill color, we're going to use a gradient fill. Okay, now we can define the color that we want to have here on the left and the color that we want to have here on the right. Now here on the right, that's easy, that's going to be right. Okay, then here on the left, we want to have also gray color. So let's go to more. And you have to decide on which gray you find pretty. Now here I want to have the following: 237 for red, 238 for green, and then here 243 for blue. Now after you set that gradient color, we can go here to special effects, shadow, and add a little bit of shadow. Now I'm going to go for a shadow here in the bottom right corner. All right, and then we put up the blur to 15, the distance to 15, and go for maybe a little bit of lighter color gray. All right, now which gray you have to decide, whatever looks good. And now you see it already floats a little bit more on top of the background, but it's not that visible yet. So then the other trick is to use another element in the back with a shadow that goes from the other side. Now here you see we can only add one shadow. So we need to take this one again, copy, paste. Now let me give this one a different color so that it's a little bit more visible. So I'm gonna give this one a solid fill. Let's go for gray. And let me place this one here to the right of it. Then I go here to shadow. And also here we're going to use a shadow, but this one is going to be in the top left corner. Okay, now you see the angle 225. Now the blur also here I would put up a little bit. Let's put it to 10, and the distance also to 10. And this shadow we're going to give a different color. Let's make it white. So now I'm going to place this one exactly on top of the other one and then send it to the back. Now these two we're going to select both at the same time. So I'm going to select both of them, right click, and group the two elements. So this is going to be the background for each card. And you see the combination of the shadows That is what really makes it stand out. So now we can just simply copy paste it 3 times and then do the same as we did before. Place them more or less equally next to one another, just like this. And we're going to have another one, and this one is going to be for that main chart here at the bottom. Then you can place this one wherever you like. So I'm going to place it a little bit more to the right. And then we can take that card on the right, drag it a little bit more to the right, and then select it together with the big one. And then you can choose align and line to the right. Okay, so that you have them perfectly aligned. And you can do the same here for the left one. So select both of them and then align to the left. Then you take all of these KPI cards, and now, of course, you can align them also to the top. And then to have the equal space in between, we distribute them horizontally. Okay, so now the next part, which is that panel that we want to have here on the left-hand side. Now for that, we have, again, the same shape. So I'm going to just copy this and duplicate it, and then put it here on the left-hand side. And then make it a little bit bigger than the background that we have for the main visuals. Now, once that is done, we can apply the gradient colors, also here from format, so gradient fill. And now we have to choose here the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Now let's go to more colors. Now here under custom, you can choose the first color that you want to have. Now I want to have some purple color. So let's choose maybe this one over here. Click OK. And now I want to have the color that's here on the right. So pick the right one, go to color, more colors. And here under custom, we can choose the other color. Now from experience, I think what works here very well is if you choose just a color that's a little bit more to the right of it. So if we go, for example, from purple, go a little bit more to the right, and then go more for a peachy color, just like this. Click OK. You see, that already looks pretty good. And you can try this also with different colors. So if I change the purple again to more colors, if I would go here for blue, let's say, click OK, then here on the right hand side, you see this would look pretty good. However, I can also go back and choose maybe that green color over here. And you see, that also looks pretty good. Okay, so you can play around with it and see which style fits your report the best. Okay, now I'm going to go with what we just had before, this one over here. And then from here, you can also play around with the stops. So if we place this one a little bit more to the right, it becomes more purple, otherwise less purple. So just play around with the colors until you're perfectly happy. So just like I've done over here. And then also for this shape, choose an exact width, exact height. So width here, 5 centimeters for me, and a height of 18.5. Okay, so that is done. Now the last part is that circle that I want to have for the user image. Now, also here for the circle, we use a similar trick. So we can go to Insert, Shapes, and then choose here the oval shape. Now I'm going to have it over here. And then here for that oval shape, we can go for a height of, let's say, 5 and a width of 5. Now the background color, that is going to be gray again. So that gray is already there. And I don't want to have a line, so turn the line off. Now, then we go here to Shadow. Choose the shadow that you like. Now I'm going to go for the same preset as before. So 15 blur and 15 distance. And then here for the color, choose a lighter gray color. Then place it exactly where you want it to be. Now I want to have that circle going a little bit outside of that panel. So I'm going to take the circle and I'm going to increase here the height to, let's say, 6 and the width also to 6 so that it goes on purpose outside of that rectangle. Now also for that circle, we can use a similar trick. So we can copy paste it and then put the 2 circles on top of one another. And then here for one of the circles, you can go to Shadow and then choose over here the shadow in the top left corner. Put the blur again to 10, the distance to 10, and then change the color of the shadow to white. And then the finishing touch is the very last shape that I want to have on it, which makes this line go inside of it. So here you have to look for a donut and then place it more or less where you want to have it. Let's put it here. And then here we can go to no line. And for fill, we want to have also a gray color. Which one? So here we have 237, 238, 243. Now then you go to Shadow. And then here for the presets, we now go for an inner one. So for example, the very first one, you see you get this interesting effect. And so you have a shadow a little bit here and there. Now this effect becomes a little bit more visible when you go for a different type of gray. So I'm going to place this a little bit to the right, take that circle again, and then here for solid fill, just choose that darker gray that was there, and also for the other circle that's behind it. And once you have changed that, then you take the donut again and put it on top of it. Of course, at the moment, the shadow is a little bit harsh, so I go back here to the shadow for the donut and go for a lighter gray color. And then here for the width of the donut itself, here you can adjust it by taking the yellow button and then dragging it a little bit to the side. Now, after you have played around with it for just a little bit longer and you have it looking exactly in the way you want it to look, now you can export the image. Now, this you can do just by going into File, and then you can say here that you want to save it. And then here, you don't want to save it as a PowerPoint, but you're going to save it as a SVG. So that means this picture can be as big as you like it to be. Okay, so without it becoming pixelated. So don't go for PNG or JPEG, go for SVG. Okay, now say where you want to have it and save it. Okay, so now we go back to our report and we're going to use that background picture. Okay, now we can do this by selecting none of the visuals, then go to Format, and then Canvas Background. Now here you can choose the image. Now I have it here, click on Open, and then we have to put the transparency to 0. Now you see that looks, well, a little bit messy. So we have to take all of the visuals and all of the elements and place them where they should be on the placeholders, okay? So let's do that. Now, first of all, that background, that blue background color for that panel on the left, we don't need, we can get rid of it. Then we can take that health score KPI card and put it here a little bit more to the left. All right, and then we can reposition that main chart that we have for our report. And of course, the same thing for the KPI cards there at the top. We can reposition them and also make them a little bit smaller. And once that is done, you also take the title and just drag it a little bit more to the left and then readjust the size of the title. And also here for the slicer, just make sure that it nicely aligns with one of the cards. Now then the last element, that is the picture. So we just have to adjust the picture size and position to place it right on top of the placeholder circles. I'm not gonna lie, putting that donut in the exact right position takes a little bit of time. However, now we just have to get rid of the backgrounds and the borderlines, and that's it. All right, so let's take over here the cards and then go to Format, and then here under General Effects, we can turn the border off and the background off. And we do the same thing for the other visuals. Now for the card over here on the left-hand side, there we of course also need to turn off the background. However, also the font color we need to set to white. And you do the same thing for the category label as well. And then the font size here we can also make a little bit bigger than for the other cards. Now then for the donut, the gray part, I would make it the same type of gray as we have for the circle in the background. So let's go here to Format, then Slices, and then just update the gray color. Now that already looks much better. Then here for that card, I forgot to take out the borderline. So let's get rid of the border. And then for the health score over time, here I would still change the color so that it's consistent with the color of the donut. So here for lines, there we have color and choose the same color. Now we're not done yet, but compare this with what we just had before. Well, quite a difference, right? Okay, but we can do even better. Now here for the line chart, I would like to have the flexibility to change the hierarchy level. So at the moment we're looking at the month level, but we could also go up to the quarter or maybe even the year level, okay? And I would like to have buttons below the chart that let me switch between the year, quarter, month, or maybe even the daily level. Okay, now how can we do that? Well, my first thought was, this is a perfect case for field parameters where we can just switch between different hierarchy levels. However, the problem is with field parameters, you cannot keep that breakdown, this hierarchy breakdown that you get when you expand down. You cannot keep it like it is. You can just have one field in that hierarchy that would show. So the only option would be to kind of combine maybe the year with the quarter or the year with the month and use that on your field parameters. However, visually, that's not so pretty. And also, you can only use the field parameters then in combination with a slicer. And a slicer, unfortunately, doesn't have many formatting options. Where we do have more formatting options and flexibility is with the bookmark navigator. Okay, now my plan is the following. Let's create 4 bookmarks, one for each level, and then include the buttons for the bookmark navigation. Okay, now how would that work? Let's first go here to View and open the bookmark section. Now we're going to create 4 bookmarks. Now let me just create 4 of them already. Now the first one is going to be for the year. So let's call this one Y. And then we have the quarters, and then we have the months, and we have the days. Now it's important that you don't capture the state of all of the objects that are on your page, but only for this chart. So we can do that by switching over here for each bookmark from all visuals to selected visuals. You do that for all 4 of them. And now that we have this, we just have to update all of them so that they capture the right state of the visual. So let me start at the year level. So I'm going to go here to the year bookmark, update that one. You see, I have only the line chart selected. Then I go to the next level. Now we are at the quarter level. So I'm going to update the quarter bookmark. Now let's go 1 level down and then update the month bookmark. And then the last one is the day bookmark. Okay, so let's test them. Year, quarter, month, and day. And this could also work if you have multiple visuals that you want to control with buttons later on. Okay, so now that we have this, how do we get the buttons then below the chart? Well, that's the easy part. Okay, now I'm gonna close the bookmarks, and then I'm gonna go 1 level higher so that we are at the month level. I'm gonna take my line chart and drag it up just a little bit so that we have a little bit more space below it. Okay, then we go to Insert, Buttons, and here we have the bookmark navigator. And there you have your buttons. So let me see if they work. I'm going to hold my control key, click on year, quarter, month. Okay, now they work. However, how can we make them prettier? Well, we can do that here under the format navigation. Now, I'm gonna go here to style. The state I leave on default, that's fine. And then here for fill color, I'm going to turn this one off. And then the border, we're also going to turn off. However, we do give it a little bit of a shadow. Now, unfortunately, you see that the shadows don't show. And that is because we do need the fill color. Okay, now for the fill color, we can choose the same gray color as what we have for the background of the chart. So I'm gonna go back here to fill, click here on color, and choose the same gray color. Now the buttons are there, however, I don't like the shape so much. We have everything with rounded corners. So also here, I probably would go for rounded corners. So I'm gonna go back here to shape and then go for rounded rectangle. Okay, now already looks better. And then we can place them a little bit closer to one another. So I'm just going to drag them very close to one another, just like this. And then we can position them right in the middle below the chart. Now for the selected state, I wouldn't go for black here. I probably would go for that same lila pinkish color. So I'm gonna go here to style, and then here we can switch the state to selected. And then we can go here to fill, change the color, and now let's see if it works. I'm gonna switch to the quarter level, holding the control key, and then to the year level. Okay, perfect. Now, then as a finishing touch, I'm going to go here to press, and then here for the text, I would like to have Sugoi bold, so that when we press, see, it becomes bold. Okay, perfect. So now we can take the line chart and drag it down a little bit so that it is closer to the buttons. And there you go. We have our buttons to switch between the different hierarchy levels. And wouldn't it be nice if the normal formatting for the slices would be similar to what we got over here? Maybe next update. Now our report is almost done. However, I think we can still do better with the KPI cards. What I'm missing is a little bit of context. So an average heart rate of 89, is that within the target for that person? Well, that's going to be the next thing. Just a simple indicator that tells us, are we below or above the target? Now to show you how to create that, I'm going to go here to View, open up the selection pane. First of all, I'm going to hide everything but the background. Okay, now I can close that selection pane again. And to create this indicator, we're going to use the bar chart, the stacked bar chart. All right, now let's add it. And let's first create a big stacked bar chart so that we have a little bit of more space over here. Now let's go to the right hand side, and there we have the measures for the heart rate, steps, calories, and exercise sessions. Now let's start with the heart rate. Now for each one of our focus values, we have a target range to know what is good, what is bad. Now we have the minimum and maximum for each person. So here I'm going to take the target minimum and put that one on the axis. And then on top of that, I want to have the actual target range. Now you see over here, the target range is just the target maximum minus the target minimum. Okay, so let's add that as well on the x-axis. And then the last part, well, the last part is going to be just filling it up until the end of the scale. So then we have a little bit of space on the right-hand side as well. For that, I have another measure, axis fill. So for example, here, I want my axis to go to 150, and then I just subtract the average heart rate, target max. Okay, so this is going to be the last one on the x-axis. Then we can go to format, and then here we can, first of all, change the colors of the bars. So let me change this one to a light gray. And then also the part to the right-hand side of the target range, also gray. And the target range itself, I'm going to go for that purple again. Okay, now that's basically it. And now we can get rid of some elements, and also here for the x-axis, make sure that I start at 0. And then here I don't want to have the title, so I turn that one off. Then turn off the x-axis. Don't first turn off the x-axis, because then you cannot turn off the title anymore and it doesn't just disappear. Then the legend we can also turn off, and we can go here to general, turn the title off. Okay, now that gives us basically just the different areas and the target range. Now the background we can turn off here under effects. Now the question is then, how did this person perform versus the target or the target range? Well, to visualize that, we can make use of, well, what we have here under the analytics tab, constant line. Okay, now here we can add a line. Now let's rename it. So click on edit, and this is going to be the actual. And then we can go here to line. Now the value we can set with a measure. Now let's choose over here the average heart rate and click on OK. Now, perfect, we have our line. Now then we can just update the formatting. Let's just go for a black line, set the transparency to 0, and I want to have a solid line. Okay, now that is basically a small indicator that I want to have below each KPI value. Okay, now let's make it then a lot smaller. And you see, when you make it too small and it doesn't fit anymore, well, it just shows this. And that is because it's responsive. It's too small for it to show. However, we can, here in the formatting, general, also turn responsiveness off. Okay, and now it shows again. And then we can just drag it here at the bottom of the KPI card. And then make it a little bit wider and place it exactly in the middle. So once you have your little indicator, we can bring back all of the visuals here on the view, selection, and then show the visuals again. And once you have your little indicator below the KPI card, we just have to repeat it for the other KPIs. So let's take it, copy it, and then duplicate it 4 times. And once you have them all positioned in the right place, we just have to update the measures. So just one by one, select them, that replace over here the heart range measures with the next one, which is then the steps. Now you have to watch out a bit that you also update here the constant line, which we set using a measure. So here for the steps, go back, and then here on the metrics, we have the steps, and I want to have the average daily steps over the selected period, the last 30 days. And then for the colors, we can go to formatting, and then here we can go to bars and give it the same color as what we had for the other one. All right, so the indicators are also in, so let me see if that works when I switch to a different person. So I'm gonna switch here to the next person. I see it nicely updates. Perfect. Okay, so that already brings us a step closer. Maybe you also want to have little icons that represent the heart rate, the daily steps, the calories, and exercise sessions. Then just look them up on websites like flaticon.com is one of them. Then you can, for example, look for heart and then use one of these heart icons. Download them and use them as an image in Power BI. Now back here, we can just go to Insert, Image, and then choose the image that you want to use. And you do the same thing for the other 3. Now, once you have them in your report, select all 4 of them, maybe using the selection pane, go to General, then here under Properties, choose a certain height. So maybe let's go for 30. And then we can also change the width. So let's say we want to have here a width of 40 or 30, whatever you like. And then we can take each one of these icons and place them where you want them to be. All right, so these icons are maybe that finishing touch that these KPI cards needed. Now, of course, we could still play around with green and red color, what's good, what's bad. However, I think for now, this is perfectly fine. Okay, now the last thing that we still need to pay attention to is the tooltips, right? So when we hover over one of these little indicator bars, it just says access fill, maybe not that pretty. Now you see, I have modern tooltips turned on. So if you want to have modern tooltips, just go to File, Options and Settings, Options, and then here under Current File, Report Settings, there we can say that we want to have the modern tooltip turned on. However, still, it could be a little bit more insightful. Now, here either I would turn it off or make use of it and customize the tooltip. Now, in this case, to save a bit of time, I'm just going to turn this one off and give you an example on the lower one. All right, so I'm going to take each one of these bar charts, then go to Formatting, and then here under General, these tooltips, for now I'm going to turn off, but let me just show you the main idea on that line chart over here. Now here, when I hover over one of the data points, it gives you the half score, 87%, and the quarter. Okay, now let's say I want to simplify this even further and just show the half score. Okay, not this drill up, drill down, all of that should go. All right, now then I can add a new page. This is going to be my tooltip. All right, then we can tell Power BI that you can use this page as a tooltip. So here in the page information, allow use as tooltip. All right, then we can go here to Canvas settings, and then here choose the size. Now, you don't necessarily have to go for tooltip. You can also go for custom. Make it as big as you like. So I'm going to make a very small one. Then here we can go back to add data to your visual. Choose a card. Now, here you see that this card doesn't really fit nicely yet. However, we have to resize it. And here, what I want to show is the half score. Drag it on top of the card. And then just go here to formatting to make the font size much smaller. Now, for example, I put this one here to 12 and the category label, let's go there and put this one also smaller to 8. Okay, now this is going to be my tooltip. Now I'll go back here to that line chart where I want to use it. Then take the line chart, go to Format, General, and then here, Tooltips, Report page, and then the page that we want to use. And now when we hover over one of the data points, you see the half score for that month for that person. Now, maybe one more consideration that I would have is to think about the font that we're going to use for the title and the cards. Now here I'm just using the default settings. So if I want to make a change, I would usually go here in the view and then customize the current theme and then go to text and change it from here so that you don't have to go to each single visual. All right, so here you see I have Segui UI and then here for the title I have din. Maybe you want it to be the same, so then we can change it here to Segui as well. And then here for the cards, I'm going to change it as well. And the tab headers, now it's already Segui, and click on apply. And see, now everything also has the same font. It's just I need to update the height of my welcomes text. And there you go. Here we have our app-like report page in Power BI. Now, I hope that along the way, you picked up a few tips and tricks. Now, if you want to see more design videos like this one, then let me know in the comment section below. And you can check out one of these videos over here. I want to thank you for watching and I see you in the next video.